Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that's buzzing across both the crypto crowd and the Wall Street suits: Ethereum staking ETFs. Yep, those words together might sound like financial alphabet soup, but they could be a game changer. Rumors are flying that the SEC could approve Ethereum staking ETFs as early as this summer. If that happens, we're not just talking another ETF on the shelf. We're talking about a whole new door opening between traditional finance and decentralized networks. It's not just about exposure to ETH's price. These ETFs could offer yield, and yield is what gets big money moving. So let's unpack what's really going on, how staking ETFs work, and what this all means for Ethereum. And for you. What exactly is a staking ETF anyway? Let's start by clearing the air. What the hell is an ETH staking ETF? A regular Ethereum ETF would just hold ETH, letting investors get price exposure without buying the actual token. But a staking ETF takes it a step further. It stakes the ETH. That means the ETH gets locked up to help run the Ethereum network, and in return, it earns staking rewards. Right now, ETH staking yields hover between 3 to 5% annually. So if an ETF stakes ETH on behalf of its investors, you're not just sitting on potential price appreciation, you're earning passive income on top. That's a massive leap from Bitcoin ETFs, which don't earn you anything unless the price pumps. In short, ETH staking ETFs aren't just passive, they're productive. Why Wall Street is paying attention? So why should Wall Street care? Because Ethereum staking ETFs solve a pain point. Institutional investors have been eyeing crypto, but the tech barrier, wallets, custody, staking mechanics has been a turnoff. A staking ETF packages all that complexity into something familiar. Investors buy it like any other fund, and bam! They've got yield from Ethereum without touching DeFi. With interest rates unstable, bonds looking shaky, and inflation always lurking, a yield-generating digital asset starts looking very attractive. Plus, there's prestige. If giants like BlackRock or Fidelity launch these products, it signals that Ethereum isn't just a risky bet anymore. It's a serious financial asset. Wall Street might not love decentralization, but it does love cash flow. The regulatory wildcard. But here's where it gets messy. Regulation. The SEC has been going after crypto staking hard. Remember when Kraken had to pay a $30 million fine and shut down its staking service in the US? Yeah, that's the kind of heat these ETF issuers will need to dodge. The legal debate is still wide open. Is staked ETH a security? Is offering yield a form of unregistered investment? If the SEC decides to bless staking ETFs, it could signal a major shift in how crypto is regulated moving forward. But if they backpedal or stall approvals, these ETF dreams might just die in committee. This summer could be a turning point. Either Ethereum gets a stamp of approval, or it runs straight into another regulatory wall. Why this is a big deal for Ethereum? For Ethereum, this is more than just another financial product. It's about legitimacy and liquidity. A staking ETF would boost demand for ETH, since issuers need to buy and lock up large amounts to stake. That tightens supply and potentially drives up price. It also brings Ethereum deeper into the mainstream. People who'd never touch MetaMask or trust a DeFi protocol might now have a clean, regulated way to invest and earn yield through their retirement account. And from Ethereum's side, more staked ETH means more network security. It's a win-win if the decentralization stays intact. The centralization risk no one wants to talk about. But let's pump the brakes for a second. There's a downside to all this institutional money flowing into staking: centralization. If a few major ETF issuers control billions in staked ETH, that also means they control a big chunk of validator power. And that's a problem. Ethereum's whole pitch is decentralization. You don't want a handful of Wall Street firms holding the keys to the castle. If too much validator weight shifts to custodians and ETF providers, it could lead to censorship risks or collusion. It's like giving the foxes part ownership of the henhouse. So yes, The ETF approval could bring growth, but the Ethereum community needs to stay sharp about who's holding the steering wheel. Investor expectations versus reality. Let's also talk expectations. A lot of people hear staking ETF and assume it's a magic money machine. Buy the fund, get rich, retire early. Not quite. First, those juicy 5% staking yields? ETFs take fees, skim margins, and face tax drag. What ends up in your pocket could be more like 2 to 3%, maybe less. Second, you're not in control. You don't get to choose validators, participate in governance, or withdraw whenever you want. You're trusting an asset manager to handle all that. So if you're expecting full DeFi power with zero effort, lower those expectations. ETFs are convenient, but they come at the cost of flexibility. What it means for on-chain stakers and the DeFi crowd. If you're already staking ETH on-chain or through protocols like Lido or Rocket Pool, should you be worried? Not necessarily. Institutional demand tends to lift all boats. A big ETF push into ETH could drive price momentum, bring media attention, and attract more users to the ecosystem overall. Plus, decentralized staking protocols might get a second wind if investors decide they'd rather stake in a permissionless, trustless way. The key is to know what lane you're in. If you're in DeFi for control, self-custody, and ideological reasons, ETFs don't replace that. They're just another tool in the toolbox, and maybe a gateway drug for TradFi folks to go deeper into crypto. If you are a retail investor, here's what to watch. So what should the average investor keep an eye on as this story develops? First, pay attention to ETF filings. If major players submit applications that include staking mechanics, that's your cue that the SEC is warming up. Second, track ETH's staking ratio. If ETF providers start buying up large chunks of ETH's stake, you'll see the total staked ETH spike. Third, monitor the price action. The ETF narrative alone can drive ETH up, just like it did with Bitcoin when those funds launched. But stay smart. Don't FOMO into overpriced funds or chase yield without understanding the terms. Do your homework, stay skeptical, and double-check the fine print. Is this Ethereum's Wall Street moment? Here's the big picture. If ETH staking ETFs go live this summer, we're looking at Ethereum's Wall Street moment. It's a sign that institutions are no longer tiptoeing around crypto. They are stepping in, wallets open, chasing yield and exposure. That's bullish in the short term and transformative in the long term. But it also brings new risks. Regulatory complications, centralization concerns, and a wave of investors who may not fully understand the tech they're buying into. This could be Ethereum's next growth chapter or its next big challenge. Either way, it's going to be a summer worth watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit the like button, share it with a friend who's into ETH, and make sure you subscribe for updates, because we'll be tracking this story all the way to the SEC's decision. Got thoughts on staking ETFs? Drop them in the comments. And hey, whether you're a DeFi degen or TradFi curious, we all win when crypto gets smarter. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.